Everybody, welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture, and we are back in the saddle once again for another season. And I have with me returning guest, comic creator Dolan. So welcome back to the show, man.
Hey, great to be back. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it was too long ago. I did my very first interview on your channel. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, no. Time just seems to be blending together, or it seems to be that 5 minutes ago feels like 10 years ago. It's one or the other in my life at the very least, but you got a lot going on right now. I think Born of Blood issue 3 is going to be launching sometime this week. I don't know the exact date. I know that the Kickstarter sign up page is active. I know the book, a good majority of the book is done. But before we get into what Born of Blood 3 is, I do kind of want to talk about what is Born of Blood for those who have never heard about it, because there's always those new people in or people who might have forgotten because there's so much going on in comics lately. So let's kind of catch everybody up on what is Born of Blood.
Well, in a nutshell, Born of Blood is the beginning of the Merc universe. This is the Merc publishing line that Jamie Tyndall and Sean Hudachko started. This is the beginning of it. This is where it all begins with the era of Sparta and Princess Giaris, daughter King Cleomenes. And we see her on this journey, the 6-issue journey of becoming eventually Queen of Sparta. We see her struggle her whole life, as well as falling in love with Leonidas, experiencing betrayal. It is and we not just that, but we also see the ties to the Merc universe in modern day that Murphy, Aaron Sparrow, Joe Corallo, and the others are setting up right now. So yeah, if you're reading the other Merc books, please do read Born of Blood, because the ties will slowly start coming together.
Yeah, so let's even talk a little bit about this, because there's a lot of stuff going on. And issue 1, in my opinion, is we get to see her, and we get to really see her being trained as a Spartan warrior. And on her 18th birthday, she basically gets, sort of forced into a cage and gets her ass kicked till she gets toughened up and fights back. And then I guess it's hard knocks. School of hard knocks is a good way to put it politely. And so that's one side. And then in issue 2, we get to see sort of her having the skills after a year. And then she's sort of being deployed, I guess, not into battle, but into handling business. And it's very interesting because we get to see the opposite side of her, because in case anybody has forgotten, she is a woman. And I say that the nicest way possible. And so what is that like for you? Because in issue 1, we get her sort of that rough and tough, leveling up her skill set and being treated very much more masculine. And then in issue 2, we get that feminine side of her. And we see a lot of that coming out. And it's so interesting.
Yeah. So I knew, because I had to take a step back and really realize that I am forming a character here. I'm creating a person here. And in doing so, if we're showing them grow, I feel like it's my responsibility as a character to show them in all different facets of life, not just being a warrior in a battlefield, but for lack of a better term, being a warrior in bed as well. And one thing about the Spartan women, they were independent, they were fierce, they were strong, and they were, warriors in bed as well. They were fierce in every sense of the word. So I wanted to show her earning that right as well, being a fierce warrior in other facets of being a Spartan woman. And we also see toward the end of issue 2, the other Spartan women get together and formulate a plan, to more or less get back the king. So it's really showing her just being I see her becoming a woman at the end of issue 2. But also in issue 2, we have, she has a mentor at this point, and she is teaching her different ways of life in Sparta, but she may have some ulterior motives as well as we get to issue 3.
Yeah. Even still to focus on issue 2, because one of the things that I like about, her and what she's doing is that there's more than one way how to fight. And so obviously, there's the woman's charm, there's being cunning, sex appeal, for lack of a better word. And it's fascinating because if you had a male character, they really couldn't do what she's doing, and the sex appeal and being sexy and how to handle something and using that. And it's nice to see that side of it, meaning that it's almost political in a lot of ways what she's doing. And it's kind of nice to see that to some degree because there's other stuff going on as well. And so, what is that like? Because I kind of view it similar to Red Sonja in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it is. I think I said at one point, this is what if Red Sonja had balls. Because I'll be perfectly honest, I here at Comics Elite that Shanu Dashko also owns, we read all the new comics every week, and I am reading Red Sonja. I am reading all the different Red Sonja books, and most of them, for lack of a better term, suck. And
it's not just Red Sonja, guys. It's a lot of comics are not great.
Yes, that is true. And Alan Moore said in an interview where it's like, one thing that helped him write comic books, I'm not trying to compare myself to Alan Moore, but one thing that he said that helped him was reading bad comics. So he knew what not to do. And so in reading these books, I'm learning what not to do.
So let's talk about that too, because I've watched, really good television, and I'm a huge Law and Order fan. And you can tell when there's a great episode of Law and Order and they hit every point and they're just running away with it. And then you could tell when they don't give a damn anymore. And they're just like, can this episode be over? And you could tell with television, you could tell with certain things. I mean, I'm a huge anime fan, and I can tell when an episode of anime was done perfectly and when it's done poorly. And so what is that like? Because it's a real issue, I feel, in comics is that, and I don't even know if it's that the concepts are bad, it's that the art of writing a comic, I feel, has been lost, where it's almost narrative and it's preachy, and somebody doesn't know how to place a certain thing or create what is known as a page turn. And I think, oh, please. You're the expert. I'm just a fan, guys.
No, trust me. Like, you hit the nail on the head several points right there. I have said it many, many times personally, because Aaron Sparrow is our creative director. I talked to Joe Corallo, who's my editor. I talked to Sean, Kyle, like everyone. I say the art of the page turn is lost. It is a very much a lost art. And I told Aaron, like, I want to bring that back. I want those last panels, that page. I want what's going on so compelling, so exciting that you want to turn the page. You want to see what's going to happen next. And unfortunately, a lot of, not all of them, but a lot of writers writing comics now are either from Hollywood, failed screenwriters. They're adapting their screenplays to comics. And unfortunately, those screenplays don't translate to comic books. It's a completely different writing platform. Like, I couldn't write a screenplay. I don't know how to. A comic book, yeah, absolutely. I know how that's going to work. But a lot of these guys don't know how the art of a comic book works or the art of a page turn. And I like to think I am doing pretty well at that.
Yeah, no, I think that the concepts are there. I think that there are more concepts, there are more ideas, there are better ideas than there has ever been in comics collectively. I really do. In television and movies, and people are experimenting more and doing some weird shit, for lack of a better word. But I think that, yeah, I agree, where it's just like you build something up and then you let it down, and then it's almost like you're narrating to me too. And I think people also have forgotten dialogue, and I think people have forgotten that a comic book does two things. And obviously you have to state something, but you're also showing. And I think that people have forgotten, and I think it's a big issue. And then I think the other issue, and this is just my opinion, is that a lot of people are saying a comic book is going to run me $6,000 to produce, and I want to pitch it to Netflix. I want to pitch it to Disney. I want to get it to Hulu. I want to get it to Hollywood, versus saying, let me produce a good product, and then it will come secondary. And so I think a lot of people are doing this as a stepping stone, where they want to be a screenwriter, but they say, look, let me prove my trait in comics, so maybe I can get and turn my comic into a screenplay. And that's what I think has happened.
And I personally hate that, because I love comic books. And from the very, very beginning, I have wanted to write a comic book story. I've wanted to write comic books. I've never wanted to write a film. If anyone ever says to you, or anyone ever says that, oh yeah, Dolan pitched this as a movie, they are absolutely full of crap. That was never, ever, ever ever considered an option, an opinion. Never wanted that to happen. But I'm not chasing Netflix bucks. I just want to write a kick-ass comic. That is my goal. If that does happen someday down the road, it's not even part of my plan right now. I don't care. Right now, I'm focused on telling a compelling comic book story. And I think a lot of these creators, they're more focused on the concept, selling that concept, as opposed to executing a well-told comic book.
I think it even goes further, and I think that people don't want to admit it, is that also creators are saying, look, I see where the money is in comics, and it's not in comics. And I think that where that fails is that you don't have a business plan. See, because I think there's so much money in comics, and I think you have to get creative. And obviously, I run an eBay store. I run a successful eBay business buying and selling comics, and I'm making money in this, and I haven't produced the book, yet I know how to sell them, and I know what's off, and I think the market is actually very healthy. I think we're in a slight soft market at the moment, but overall, the market is relatively healthy, and in about a year and a half, it's going to be right back where it should be. But the idea is that I think the people who are trying to sell the concept to Hollywood are saying, look, my book isn't delivering its cash. And I think that's part of the issue. And I think that they're just not getting creative on how to make their comic book worth money and how to pull money, variants, exclusives, figuring out how to print a bunch, figuring out how to market it correctly, figuring out how to produce a toy on it. I mean, I'm having Tom Hutchinson, and he produced an action figure, and I just think a lot of people aren't getting creative outside of their comic and marketing and other opportunities to merchandise it. That's why they want to Hollywood, and that's where they want to pitch it. But again, that's just what I see. Having been doing this for 10 years, that is the trend I have seen, and I don't think it's stopping.
No, you're not wrong. I mean, and one thing I've noticed, like other comic book store owners, a lot of them put all their eggs in one basket, which is something you should not do. You should not just go all in on one thing. Whereas with somewhere like Comic Sleep, example, since I'm here, Sean owns this, he has diversified the different facets, of how his businesses make money. He's got Whatnot, eBay, Facebook Live sales, website, different ways to make money. And the brick and mortar store, it's open to different possibilities.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I'm exclusively on eBay right now just because it works for me. But again, my eBay business is just one business of mine. It's not all my businesses. And I think that just the other thing is that also, though, I tend to, and I'm now in the process of diversifying my merch, which is a whole different ballgame. And I think that obviously I'm learning very quickly that I probably needed to do that about 2 years ago. And the fact that I wasn't getting my ass kicked 2 years ago is why I'm doing it now. And I'm not saying I'm getting my ass kicked, but I'm definitely getting, rougher. It's getting turbulent is a good word. But yeah, I think that's something that's super interesting. But getting back to Born of Blood, it's such a great tangent. This is why I like speaking to you because we're being honest and there's no punches being pulled here. But getting back to Born of Blood, because obviously issue 2, there's other things going on with the king. There's some land disputes going on. And there's some other stuff going on where we got a very central story with this female Spartan warrior whose name I always get wrong, and I don't want to embarrass myself any further than I need to.
Giaris. Yeah.
Yeah, I gave up. I gave up like years ago.
It's been years now at this point. It's like I wrote this almost 2 years ago. It's been over a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. I wrote this issue 1, and issue 2 is like right after that. It's wild how fast time flies.
But there's some other stuff going on with the king, and she might be coming into queenship a little bit sooner. And there's a lot of other stuff because we get obviously a very complicated political environment that is sort of taking place in the background. I feel, and that's what I've read, and that's what I've sort of gotten out of it. And I could be off base, so feel free to correct me at any point. I'm off base here.
No, you're right. It's like I'm trying to set up as best I can little small subplots going on in the background, and hence teases of things to come in further issues. And by the time you get to issue 6, which we'll hopefully start the art soon on that, you guys won't see that coming. But like, I just want there to be small subplots we were hinted, teased of people maybe pulling strings. People are trying to push people against one another. I just want to have fun with that, and hopefully the reader can see that too, like you have seen. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some of it, and then other people have pointed other things to me. I'm like, oh, and then I've gone back, and then I'm like, oh, I see it now. So I've seen like hints of things, and obviously I've seen hints of other stuff that deal with the other Merc stuff that's coming, and that's futurized. But I don't want to give away Easter eggs in case anybody hasn't picked it up yet. So or is going to be going back now that there's a bunch of Easter eggs in there. So I don't want to give anybody any clues because it'll ruin it for you. But even going into issue 3 and then issue 4, because I know that issue 3 is obviously the Kickstarter is going to come out and then eventually it'll come out in stores. Same thing with issue 4. So what is this like? Because the majority of issue 3, I think, is done.
Well, okay. So issue 3's already been out in stores. Issue 3 came out in stores back in November, I believe. But what we're launching is the special Kickstarter edition. So this is effectively a thank you bonus edition to the people who have supported Born of Blood 1 through 3. We're going to have a bunch of hot new covers. We're going to include some behind the scenes notes in the Kickstarter, just page notes, and like as well as like going into issue 3, what my thought process was.
So let's actually talk about this, because this is really interesting. And this is one of the things that me and a friend, Paul Gomez, were speaking about, is that, you know, what areas do you want to be in when you produce your comic, where some people want to go direct to distributors, whether that's Diamond, I think, what's the other one? Is it Lunar?
Yeah, Lunar.
I just wanted to make sure I always get the name mixed up, and I don't want to sound, as I stated before, I embarrass myself plenty enough without anybody's help. So there you go. But yeah, so obviously you went through Lunar, I think is where you guys are at, and then that went into comic stores, and then there's an audience member just for that says, look, I don't trust Kickstarter, and there's good reasons not to. I mean, plenty of people have been screwed on Kickstarter. Plenty of people have been screwed on crowdfunders. I mean, plenty of creators have been shadow banned on these platforms. And so plenty of people say, look, I don't want to give my money to those platforms. And also plenty of people say, look, I want to support my local comic shop. I want to support my local business. So you guys are in there. And then you're also now on Kickstarter. And obviously both are somewhat profitable, but obviously Kickstarter is direct to consumer. And also on Kickstarter, you get data. You can also adjust. You can also do certain things that you might not be able to do in a shop. So for instance, you can go and have 15 covers on a Kickstarter, and going into a shop, it's a lot harder to do 15 covers because it just is. And a shop doesn't want to order 15 covers.
Yeah, and limited space too. So yeah.
And so what is that like? Because it's a very interesting business model. And I think it's something that more creators should try to do. And whether you do it, whatever order you do it in, I mean, obviously, if you do the Kickstarter first and you actually know what sort of hits, I mean, that might give you more data and more insight when you go into retail. But you guys did it the opposite way, which is also interesting.
Yeah, it started off in Kickstarter, and then we got picked up. Picked up by Lunar Distribution. But we do make a majority of our money through Kickstarter. I mean, there's no other way around that. We do. But I mean, it's great. We got our stuff out in Lunar in the stores. But our Kickstarters, Merc Publishing, they've launched over a dozen so far, and they have all been fulfilled on time. If they're late, it's usually by maybe a month, if that. But anyway, they're all fulfilled. They're usually 2-week campaigns, and then we're on to the next one. And we make plenty doing that way. But we also make good money through Lunar. But we like to think you can tap both markets. You can hit both because, like you said, people may not trust crowdfunding platforms. They don't. I've talked to people who don't even know what Kickstarter is. They're like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're still living that age." And some people just love to go to their local comic book shop. So why not hit both?
Because also, and I mean, you said that obviously you make a lot of money on your Kickstarters. I mean, I think the last Born of Blood did 52,000 around that number.
Yeah, it's like 58, but like 56, 58, but it was a 2-week campaign, only 2 weeks. So
and so this is one of the things, and feel free to tell me to be quiet at any point, but making 50 grand in a comic shop and through distribution is really hard. I don't know if Marvel does it. I don't know if DC does it anymore. I mean, and even back, 10 years ago, I still think it was hard to do it. And you needed a really big event. You needed a lot of push. You needed a lot of drive. And, obviously, when you can do it in 2 weeks and then it helps fund the book, and it not only helps to fund the book, but it also helps to get the next one and the next one going. It's obviously a business model where if you're doing 15 campaigns and they're all doing 50,000 plus, I mean, it's a lot of money that's being brought into the company. And, obviously I hate to say this, but money makes everything work, whether in anything for that matter. I mean, I run a business, I need cash flow, and I have cash flow. And so that's something that people may or may not understand, but it's very advantageous for you guys and what you're doing with that. And so I think it's just something that people need to understand is that, and then the lunar stuff is just almost gravy on top. And then doing store exclusives then becomes gravy on top because you have a lot of different things working, which then grants you a lot more freedom to add another title on or bring on another cover artist. And it gives a lot of freedom. And I think that's something that's super, super important for people to understand and for people to maybe mimic and then copy, because it's a very, very smart idea.
Yeah, and our books have gotten a lot of attention. A lot of artists, people are taking notice now, and a lot of artists have wanted to reach out to us to do some covers. But we're also finding, finding new talent too. Guys that out there doing indie books people may not know about, people may have forgotten about. It's like, you know what? They still got it. Let's bring them back, have them do a cover. But yeah, I mean, we like to think we're doing, after only a year, Merc Publishing is doing very, very, very well. And we've said it, and Sean said it, we're coming after Zenescope. Zenescope is our next hill to climb over. So we get over them. Then we're coming for Image, then DC. Yeah.
Well, I mean, DC and Marvel, they're going to be a tough battle because I'm just giving everybody a heads up. They're going to be a tough battle for a lot of people, and I think they're going to fix themselves eventually. One or two things is going to happen. They're either going to collapse or they're going to fix themselves. And I love Zenescope, so I don't think Zenescope's going anywhere anytime soon. I think Zenescope has a huge loyal fan following.
They do.
Yep. People are like Lady Death. It's just loyalty to the T. And I think it's super interesting what they do. But I also think that, Merc is very similar to Zenescope, is very similar to Big Dog Inc., where I think a lot of you and the three of those companies, to be very honest, really play in, the alternative space and has been very much overlooked and looked down upon for a good majority. Maybe not Merc, because Merc is brand new, but I feel like Big Dog Inc. and even Zenescope for a while was looked down as something, and then people have slowly changed their opinion on it. And I think that,
I blame Marvel and DC for that, honestly. I really think Marvel and DC have turned away people so much that they started looking at other publishers. And they really started looking, oh, hey, what's this company, Zenescope? Oh, hey, what is this Aftershock? What is this? What is that? What is Merc? So they wanted to see what's going on here. And they realized, oh, my God, there's some quality product here.
Yeah, and do you also feel that, obviously, I mean, I don't know when was the last time you thought DC was good? Just curiosity.
I got it. It was during DC Rebirth. During DC Rebirth, when that was launched, I could not be happier. I was having a blast. I mean, you had Tom King before the Tom King right now, when he was just getting ready to start Batman. You had Robert Venditti and Ethan Van Sciver on Hal Jordan and Green Lantern Corps. You had some great stuff going. Oh, you had Action Comics and Superman by the Peter Tomasi, Patrick Gleason, and all the different artists, Dan Jurgens, all the others working on. It was a great time to be reading DC Comics.
See, I enjoyed New 52, and I enjoyed Action New 52, Batman New 52. I thought Flash was okay. I thought Green Lantern was good, and I thought Wonder Woman was decent. And then before that, for me, the last big thing that I read from DC that I still think holds weight is Blackest Night.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when I go and look at DC, and the reason why I bring this up is that a lot of the people who were in DC, were trained during 2008, maybe even going. When was Rebirth? Like 14, I want to say, or was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was right around then. Yeah.
Because I still think there was some good editing done there, because I think a lot of the problems with DC is that I think people are lazy just in general at both Marvel and DC. And I think that the editors suck at those companies right now. And there's no guidance. There's no massive guidance. We don't have a seasoned editor running something, and then there you go.
Yeah,
And so
most have left or quit or were fired. And unfortunately, you have Jim Lee in charge, and Jim Lee. I mean, you talk to anyone, they'd say he's more or less just sitting there and doodling. That's all he does. He's not really giving any direction at all, which is unfortunate.
And so I think what's happened is that a lot of talent who was at DC, was at Marvel, it basically said, cool, we'll go out on our own, or we will go to one of these companies. We will go to a Titan, we will go to a Zenescope, we will go to an Aftershock, we will go to a Merc. And then all of a sudden, they bring their knowledge, and then you have a bunch of young people, and I hope you take this as a compliment, you're new to comics as a writer.
I am. I absolutely am. Yeah.
So when somebody is a editor who's been doing it for 10 years and is giving you guidance, they're giving you 10 years of knowledge. Or somebody like Jamie Tyndall, who's been around forever, is now giving you knowledge on something. Say, hey, did you think about doing it this way? Or what about this idea for your character? Or what if we structured her this way? All of a sudden, you're gaining a boatload of knowledge that if those companies didn't fire a bunch of their top editors, that wouldn't exist. And I think that's why a lot of these companies, and you look at somebody like Mike Tiener, Bad Bug, is a rising company. They have a lot of talent. You look at Dustin Brunell's company, it has a lot of talent. And there's a reason why all these people are now coming. And then all of a sudden you get one or two good editors, and those companies then start rising up like crazy. And I think that's what's changed.
Yes, and you're correct with especially with my situation being a new hack writer, as well as what really helped Born of Blood, as well as the other titles, as well as Merc, was getting a hold of Aaron Sparrow and Joe Corallo. Those two, when I reached out to them, when they came on board eventually, it changed the game. And effectively, I mean, I effectively had knowledge coming to me. At great editors were helping me with my book, because what Born of Blood 3 was originally, before they came on board, it was okay. But when they came on board and started, helping me out, like, hey, you should add this, take this out, to add this. I'm like, oh, I didn't think of that. And it's like they brought that guidance, especially Aaron. Aaron, I don't know if you're not familiar with Aaron Sparrow, but working at IDW and Boom, just with IPs like such as Darkwing Duck, and working under Mark Waid. He has so much knowledge and experience. And it's just, it's he's a guy I'm always reaching out to. Like, hey, what do you think about this? Same thing with Joe Corallo. He's an award-winning editor and writer. So it's like, I'm always asking him, I'm always got different ideas. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about if I add this, take this out? I trust these guys because they know what they're doing. They've been doing it for a long time. And I couldn't be happier having them for guidance.
And then I think the other thing that's also very important, and this is what I try to explain to new creators, is that a lot of people might have a Kickstarter manager or somebody who helps write their Kickstarter or structure their Kickstarter, the actual, funnel of it. Because that's what Kickstarter is. In case anybody didn't know, it's just a gigantic funnel. But I think what some people don't also realize is that you might need a business manager. You might need somebody who's been around, not necessarily writing comics, but knows how to sell them, understands the market, understands how to price something. That's a big deal on how to price something. And I think that, Sean knows what he's doing with that more so than anything else. And like, this is what I try to explain. And obviously anybody who sells comics, and I'm selling a lot of comics, I have a pretty good idea on a feel for the market. And this is what I try to explain to other people when you're building a Kickstarter, is that you have to also think about the consumer, and you have to think about collectability. And I think that that's a real advantage for Merc. I think Zenescope also understands that. I don't know other companies if they understand that. I don't think DC understands it. I don't know if Titan understands it. I don't know if Marvel understands it. But I think that Zenescope knows it well, and I think Merc knows it really well. And I think certain people on Kickstarter also understand that. So what is that like too for you? Because that also changes the game.
Yes. So effectively, I mean, I'm the writer of the series, but like Sean Murphy and Aaron, if you guys, they kind of more or less oversee the Kickstarters, kind of running the things behind the scenes and getting the covers and all that stuff lined up, but and doing all the pricing and everything. Which okay, they got it. That's fine. I'll just be out here promoting it, doing everything I can in my power, make sure everyone knows about it.
But even still, sorry to cut you off. It's nice to know that you have that support because let's be realistic. If you had to figure that out, that's a pain in the ass, for lack of a better word.
Oh, it absolutely is. Yeah, absolutely. And thankfully, they've done over a dozen now, so they know what they're doing. And I mean, one thing we also do is that we check out other Kickstarters or Indiegogo campaigns. We see what we try to take a look at what unique stuff that they're doing, and it's like, you know what? That's not a bad idea. Let's see if we can tweak that, modify it, make that better, and use it for one of our campaigns. Or we see like, oh, that one don't do, or that's our, man, we may not use that. We may try that, but like learning to see what the field is doing and seeing what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, because that's something else too that I also think is very interesting. And obviously, I'm going through a diversified merch on my own business, and obviously, I picked up some Jamie Tyndall stuff, and I'm probably gonna pick up some more Merc stuff. And I really like those mystery boxes, and I'm doing all right with them. Some books just sell like crazy. Other books are a long hold. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not saying what's what, and then some books I'm keeping for myself. I must say, Jamie Tyndall's best character he draws is Deja Thorne. But that's not the point. That's not the point. Don't tell him that. I don't want to hurt his feelings about his Red Sonja, stuff, or his White Widow. Obviously, though, her with the tiger. That's a nice cover, everybody. It's a really nice cover.
Yeah, but personally, I'm biased to the Born of Blood covers he's done, but that's my opinion.
You are required to say that.
Well, not just that, but because I love him that much.
No, I like a lot of his work. I just think that he just hit that character perfectly. I think he hit that character on how she's supposed to look. Like I can't explain it. Where there's been so many different versions of Red Sonja that a lot of different people have hit Red Sonja perfectly. I don't think a lot of people have hit Deja Thorne perfectly. I think Jamie Tyndall hit her perfectly, and that's a real compliment. I can't think of the only other person is Michael Linzer.
Yes.
But those are the only two out of all the people who have drawn her. So that's all I'm going to say on that one. But obviously, it's something very, very cool that I think is very interesting. But yeah, I just think it's nice because there's a whole team, and that's what's wonderful about what's going on with Merc is that you're not alone on an island. And there's a saying, and people who watch YouTube, you might have seen Dean Graciosis, I think that's his name, talk about don't focus on what you suck at, focus on what you're good at, and then hire people who are good at what they're good at. So if you suck at figuring out covers, maybe you ought to bring somebody on your team who's very good at that. And so you can focus on actually creating something. And I think that's what Merc has done beautifully.
Yeah, when Merc started off, it was Sean, Jamie, and Murphy, and maybe a few other people that Jamie had in his warehouse, but that was effectively it. And they were working on Miss Meow, and the stories were okay. And it really was. Murphy and I started talking. We had kind of an idea of where we wanted to take things, but we kind of felt like we needed, guys someone to come in that really who's had experience in the field of doing this, who could help build a universe and would be a good fit. And I've talked to Aaron Sparrow and Joe a few times. I've been on live streams with them. I figured, hey, these two guys would be perfect for Merc Publishing. And yeah, it was a perfect fit for these guys. And yeah, with their help, we were making a huge universe.
Yeah, and then obviously a lot of other people have come in and out just on the cover side of things. And has come on.
Tim Vigil. Yeah, Tim Vigil.
I don't know who that is. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm the worst.
Faust, Love of the Damned. Tim Vigil. Yeah.
I don't know everything, guys. I don't know everything. I know a lot of stuff. I just don't know everything. It's impossible to know everything. But I know Greg Bo's been on there. I know TriStar's been on there. John Royal. I know that Ryan Kincaid, I want to say.
Yep, Ali Garza.
I don't think you've done Marissa Pope yet. That's somebody who should be on your radar. I'm just saying.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, hey, I'm just saying. I like her work. I still think you should up Megan Bain. I think she'd make a great Sparta. She's
Ron Larry. Larry's was one of the guys I reached out to, and I said I want Ron Larry, and he's done 2 covers for us. And the second one he's doing, I think for issue 5, it looks amazing, and I can't wait to get that in my hands.
Yeah, and then there's just, I mean, Shikari.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Shikari is a movement at this point. He is not just an artist; he is a movement. He is insane, and every cover he has done has been lights out. It's nuts.
I didn't even know if Shikari was a man or a woman because at this stage, you don't know anymore.
No, we've talked to him. He lives in India. It's a guy. So yeah, he knows. Yeah.
because I mentioned Sun Kumanaki, and Sun Kumanaki can go either way. Sun Kumanaki is a woman. I want to make that crystal clear. But if you just hear a name, you don't know sometimes.
Yes. So. Yeah, anymore sometimes. Yeah, it's fair.
So you can never assume is all I'm going to say on that point. But yeah, what is that like? Because I know Shikari is now almost exclusive to Merc.
Yeah, well, he's exclusive to Comics Elite, Sean Hidashko, and I think Goblin Comics. Goblins 2. There's one other one, Sean and another store.
Yeah, I think also though, I think Shikari might do some other work outside, but it's really expensive.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I mean, obviously there's a whole thing. It prompted a whole video / discussion from me about AI art. But that's a different show, different topic.
Yeah, don't get Shikari started on AI art. Don't. Yeah.
All I'm going to say is that it was a very adult conversation between 2 individuals, and nobody was arguing, and we were actually talking about all the different sides of it, and it was actually a very adult conversation. So it's a very important conversation, I feel, to have in an adult fashion, hearing everybody's side, because it's not a black and white issue. It is a very gray issue on what it means and what exactly it means for the industry and what it means for society in a lot of ways as well, and even professional versus personal applications. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. That's what that discussion was for. And at some point I will revisit it with a bunch of other people, because I think it's not an ending conversation. But I would love Shikari's opinion on it. I would pay good money for it. It'd be so good television. It'd be perfect. But yeah, and then obviously even just going into that too, because talking about the covers, I mean, obviously TriStar was on, Greg Watson was on. I've had other people on. Did Keith Garvey do a cover for you guys yet or no?
I don't believe so. No.
Yeah, no, because I get confused on who's doing what and what's doing whom for everybody. Because at this point, everybody does everything for everybody, essentially. But what is that like? Because to have all those covers, I mean, I know TriStar's cover sold out really quickly. Mm-hmm. I know that Piper. What's Piper's last name?
Redditch.
Yeah. I know that they did a great cover for you. And so, what is that like? Because you have all these great covers too. And
from my point of view, as the writer of the series, I could not be happier I'm ecstatic having all these big names attached to Merc Publishing as well as Born of Blood. As the writer, I am beyond ecstatic. If people are buying it for the cover, I can't blame them. That's terrific. That's fantastic. However, it's like I want people to realize there is a great story here too. So I'm doing everything in my power, getting on social media platforms to tell people, hey, there is a great story here. This book is getting good reviews. People are enjoying it. People are buying it. You guys do need to check this out. Maybe you should buy 2 copies, have a collector copy and have a reader copy. So it's on me, to sell people on the story.
Let me ask you this, because this is always an issue, right?
Mhm.
is that this is the balance, right? So you produce a book on Kickstarter, and I'm going to simplify it, is that you produce a book on Kickstarter, and then you obviously want to get it funded because you as an individual put your money into it. For the majority of people, they put their money into it, or a company put money into it, and they want to get their money back or break even. And
Mhm.
so sometimes a cover will allow you to do that. And what you hope for is that people also read it, but like you also want people to read it because you worked and you wrote it and you put your heart and soul into it. And so, what is that like for you? Because I feel like it's a happy balance. And that's why people do all these variants and do all these exclusives, and then they do nude covers or they do more risque covers, because you have to get the book funded, but you also want people to read it. And obviously, as you add 15, 20 covers, things do get more expensive. And so you need more money. And so, what is that like? Because it's tricky, I feel, because at the end of the day, you want to get your book constantly, you want to get to 6 issues, 9 issues, 12 issues.
Yeah.
And even if only half the people read it, but you get to continue to write it, who's to say that somebody in 5 years from now won't pick it up and read it?
And I would hope, yeah, it is it's a very delicate balance. It is really tightrope walk. And like I said before, I couldn't be happier with all the names attached to doing the covers, interior artwork. Well, the covers is fantastic. As the writer of the series, I'm beyond ecstatic. I can't believe that I got these guys, these artists doing covers for the book I'm writing. It's wild. I never thought this would happen to me ever. But I I just feel like it's my responsibility. It's great, but like I also want them to realize there is a story. There's a great story
It's
here,
tricky
and
to balance the business of it, because it is a business,
yeah,
and it's tricky to
yeah,
say, I need to protect the brand and the
yeah,
business, but I
yeah.
also need to understand that people need to also appreciate the underlying asset.
Yeah, and I think that one thing we're doing with that is like, okay, if you don't want to open it up, you just want to collect it, that is fantastic. We also have the digital PDF. If you don't want to open it up, you want to collect it, perfect. Buy the digital PDF. You can read it electronically. So there's that option as well, and which is a great option, I believe. People who can only afford one cover.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no. I mean, I appreciate it. I think like there's been some stretch goals where you guys unlocked like the PDF of the book on a stretch goal on a few issues, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm a big proponent where one of my biggest pet peeves, and I'm very honest about this, is that I despise when a PDF is not included. Because if
Mm.
I'm spending $40 on a cover and there's only 100 of them, the likelihood of anybody opening that book up is slim to none. It really is. I hate to say it, and somebody might disagree, but I really think that at a certain point, always offering a PDF, especially when people are buying physical copies, is always the answer if you want people to read your work. That's just my thing. It actually bothers me as a consumer, and I've not backed projects because the person was not going to offer a PDF and they're charging $25 for cover A, and I'm like, yeah,
We offer the PDFs for $5. So there you go.
I mean, look, I get it. I get it completely. But like, obviously whatever works, the free market will always determine what people will pay for.
Yep.
And then the free market is always evolving. So, but again, it's just a pet peeve of mine. Just because I have a pet peeve does not mean I'm right. It just means how I'll function. But I digress right there. Obviously, you're shooting, I think, for the end of the week with Born of Blood 3. It's going to be fun, guys. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun stuff. There's going to be a bunch of stretch goals. I think it's a pivotal Kickstarter for you because, it's either going to be higher or lower. And then you're going to have a really good idea of, what to pivot next to and who to go for your covers on issue 4. But I'm just saying that's where we're going. We need that cosplay cover. That's really what we need. I'm just saying it's long overdue. I don't think the
Yeah.
done
So
yet.
Sean and we've talked about getting a cosplayer, but we're talking about it. We've
I
talked.
have a list for you. I have a list of all my friends. I have a list. I have all their contact information. I'm just a phone call away. That's all I'm saying. And no, it is not me. It is not me, everybody. I am too sexy for a cover. We would like the book to fund.
Mhm. Yes, I agree. Yes, if as soon as we start losing money on the campaign, maybe this wasn't a good idea. Yeah.
But
Should
putting me on the cover would not be a good idea.
we'll save it for Death Rage. There we go.
Exactly. I just don't want to break the internet just yet. We still need to be productive in society, everybody. But I do want to back out at Born to Blood, and I am very curious because we touched upon parts of this, and we kind of sort of said a lot of comics suck.
Yeah.
Both mainstream and indie. I have a lot of concerns. I don't know about you, but and look, I'm not maybe as mean, or I don't have as much time where I don't review comics I used to.
Mhm.
And I don't want to break a comic, right? I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. I don't want to destroy somebody's dreams. But also, there is a point where we need to tell somebody, look, your book wasn't good. Like,
yeah, and you're absolutely correct. I think a lot of people aren't saying that to these creators, or they have editors who are not telling them, not doing their job, being like, hey, this story is a mess. And this is where good edit. I think not only do we need good writers, we need good editors, and the good editors are in very short supply. And these editors need to tell these writers, hey, you're not writing a novel here. You're not writing a screenplay. You're writing a comic book. All right. You can't have the entire book of people just walking and talking or eating. All right.
there was an issue, and this is the problem: is that somebody had a book, and the main character is a messed up bitch of a character. I do not need 32 pages of her being a bitch. I got it in 3. Okay, if you went 5, that's okay, but we could have got to the meat of the story, or you could have given me 4 different flashbacks in that same book of her being a bitch, and I would have gotten it. But it wasn't creative. It was just her being a straight bitch for freaking 32 pages, and there were some fun scenes of her being a bitch. Don't get me wrong here. I enjoyed like that she was with her girlfriend and she was angry at her because she was on her phone, so she dumped her wine on her and then she just left. That was funny. But again, though, I don't need 32 pages of that, and that's where a good editor I felt would come in and be like, dude,
there's got to be more than this. And if you continue this for the whole issue, you're not going to have a likable, more or less relatable protagonist. If that is a central character, that is the protagonist of the story, it's like, it's not going to work. You can't do that.
I felt differently. I didn't even think about it like that. I felt like you just wasted $20 of my money to tell me this.
That's the other factor too. $20. Oh my God. Wow. Woo! I want my money back. I demand my money back if I spent that much on it and that was happening. Jeez.
And issue 2 wasn't much better. Issue 2 wasn't much better, and I didn't make it to issue 3. And this person is a friend, and I'm like, we really gotta fix your book.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta fix your book, and the way we fix your book is we scrap issues 1, 2, and 3, and we fix it in a different way. We send you to fix the book school.
Yeah, boot camp. We're gonna send you to boot camp. Get this all fixed. But a lot of them a lot of them don't think about the main questions like, okay, who's the protagonist? Who is the antagonist? What are their goals? What are their ambitions? What are they trying to achieve? What are their faults? What are their fallbacks? Who are the supporting characters? What is the struggle? A lot of them don't. They just start writing, and there's no editing.
I also think that a lot of people also don't think about what their book is, right?
Yeah.
So Born to Blood is not a comedy by any stretch of the imagination. It's not a bad B movie, but like I have a friend, Max DeVille. Max DeVille does Mary Machine Gun. He does Human Hunters. He does Ninja Bimbos versus Zombies from Deep Space. And so all of a sudden, Ninja Bimbos versus Zombies from Deep Space, that is a B movie you watch in college getting hammered.
Yeah.
That book does not need the same treatment as Born to Blood needs. So when Max is writing that book, he's writing it so that you open up a beer and you get hammered and all your friends are getting hammered and then you all talk about it. And that's the point of the book, is to create that feeling. And it's well written, it's well done, but it's also very different where I don't think, and it was well thought out to be that. So I think that's the other problem too, is that what are you trying to accomplish in your book? If you're
Yeah.
trying to tell me a story about overcoming adversity and problems, you need to have a character and who's a bitch, but she's becoming a better person. I understand we need to create that, but you have to do it creatively. Versus if you're just telling me a crazy bitch who is an assassin for hire and she's not likable, but it's going to be an action comic. Well, I don't really think I need to like her, and she could be a bitch all day long as long as she's taking out her target. So, I think that that's the other problem too, is that, and that's where an editor also comes in handy, is saying, look, what's the point and what's the structure of your book?
Yeah, that's very true. Like one thing, when I set out to write the story, I knew it was going to be, because I wanted to write in very much like the vein of Robert E. Howard. If you enjoyed Conan, if you enjoyed Red Sonja, you're going to enjoy this. It's just an action-packed adrenaline ride reading this. Lots of blood, gore, romance, betrayals, intrigue, different locations. It's going to have all of that, and I knew I wanted to do the best I could to show the big boys, Marvel, more or less, this is how you do a Red Sonja or a Conan book correctly. This is the right way to do it.
I like your book. Your book is 300 meets Red Sonja, just not as dark as 300.
One of the reviewer, Gabe Hernandez with Comical Opinions, he called it the spiritual successor to 300. And when we saw that, we're like, oh my God, and that was thrilling. And I'll never forget that.
I got a Frank Miller vibe from it. I did. But I didn't think it was as dark as 300. I didn't think it was as gritty as 300. I didn't think it was, I don't want to say as rough, but it's not as tough as 300, if that makes any sense. Like, I feel like 300 is like you're chewing your meat on 300 is a nice way how to put 300, in my opinion, at least. 300 is great, but I'm just like, I want something.
A different story too, and not just I'm building a character here as well, and you're not really getting that in 300, and that's more of one long, battle. 300 is a battle, and whereas this, I'm building a character and exploring her back. It's a different type of story. Yeah, so I would agree with that.
Yeah. I feel like this is sitting at a nice restaurant, and I'm not like that's how I view it. But anyway, I digress right there. I do want to ask you one more thing before I let you get out of here. And since we're on the topic of Kickstarter, and who knows where the economy's going? One day it's up, one day it's down. The last week's been good for the market. The last 10 days has been good for the market. But I don't know if we're going to be heading to a recession. I don't know if we're going to be heading for a rougher time. I've noticed that the comic market just collectively in the collectible area is down a little bit, and it's a little bit soft right now. And I know that I think either I said it or you said it at some point when we were speaking before, is that a lot of creators, I think, are in for a little bit of a shock. And my friend Travis Gibb, who was commenting in the comment section, what he was saying is that a lot of small publishers have actually decided not to take submissions. And so what's going to happen is that a lot more people, I think, are going to be on Kickstarter. And that means there's more competition, which means that there's less money to go around. Just because money, it's an infinite resource, but people only have so much discretionary income per month. So if there's 900 projects, naturally, it's going to be tougher to get those 900 funded to some degree or get funded over. So I'm very curious where you see all this going, because I have a feeling that either everybody's wrong or, it's going to be a very interesting year on indie comics.
Well, I would say with working with Sean, there are fat months and there are lean months. And right now we are in a very lean month period. People just spent a ton of money. We just had the holidays. People spend a bunch of money on that. Tax season's upon us. People are repaying their taxes. So I told us hey, January to March or so, they're pretty rough. But thankfully we have different facets, and not just everyone. You could say a certain percentage of people may have a certain specific amount of discretionary income that they can spend. But I would say there's also more, another half of people probably more like who do have a lot of discretionary income, who do like to spend money. And we like to think that we've attracted a lot of those customers and they keep coming back to us for new products, like say Shikari covers. So yeah, they tend to like those, but we're doing pretty fine right now. But I will say I do expect traditionally we're going by the calendar. I would say by end of March, April, things will start picking back up around. People will start spending money on comics again.
No, I mean, I'm very confused because my opinion is that I think that we're going to be in a very trying year.
Mm.
That's just my opinion. Where I think that depending on how the economy's doing, and depending on where certain things and whether we are out of a recession or if it's a small dip and then we're going to continue onward, which is complicated. And even what the Fed does, I think it's going to be very interesting what happens because, and also how inflation gets handled and a bunch of other stuff, because I think that's also going to dictate a lot of things. And I don't really know. I mean, if you told me 6 months ago, I thought we were going to be into a recession by now. And I mean, we technically are, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
But
I was expecting it to be a lot worse. But yeah, like you said, you look at the markets, you look financially, just things have. I don't want to say corrected. I guess, for lack of a better term, kind of corrected. Things are. We added jobs to the market, and I think the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up. I think maybe I'm not too sure.
it's around the same. It's around the same. It's still a little bit down, but
It hasn't made those massive dives people were expecting. So it's down, but not as down as they thought.
it's very interesting. And so
Yeah.
I have been, and everybody where there's equal advocates on both sides, and that's my whole thing, and that's why I'm so curious about because I'm a consumer, and I've just noticed that the investing market and the collectible market in my eBay store is soft, and I've noticed that books that were trading at $100 are not trading more at 70.
Mhm.
And also, I'm looking at two books that are going to determine the market collectively, which is Ultimate Fallout 4 and Hulk 181. Those two
Yeah.
books are the two books to look at. When those books fall below certain numbers, we are in a bear market with comic book collecting. And when those books trade above certain numbers, we are in a bull market.
Well, and I would say another factor here that's kind of we have an abundance of this probably bringing the price down. Just all of the store exclusives, which with Marvel and DC, there are a metric ton of those right now. Almost anyone can get their own exclusive now with Marvel if they wanted to. It is amazing how different the market is now compared to like 2017, 2018. It's how many more variants, how many store exclusive variants there are now. And I think that bubble is going to burst on the store exclusives pretty soon.
I think it's also going to burst on a few other things with certain creators as well. I mean, J. Scott Campbell used to be a lot more valuable. Clay Crane used to be a lot more valuable. You look at an Art Gem, it used to be a lot more valuable. And early J. Scott Campbell's worth more. Early Clayton Crane is worth more. And you look at certain people. I mean, early
a lot of them have just become more or less cogs in the machine. They're just churning out the next one, and they all just look generic, bland, not exciting. Characters just standing there. It's like, why am I spending 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks on this? There's no point.
I got called out on that very point, and I was like, and I said, look, I think, to some degree, I could put 4 or 5 artists next to each other, and their names were not on there, and their name tags weren't on it. You wouldn't know who did what.
Yeah, and honestly, so speaking of J. Scott Campbell, I like to think right now we have the more exciting, dynamic version of J. Scott Campbell working with us, John Royal. John Royal is amazing. He did a cover for Born of Blood 3, which was in the stores, and it is terrific. He is what J. Scott Campbell, I guess, more or less used to be.
I mean, I think Marissa Pope is very similar to Campbell. I think like the Baffo is similar. I mean, there's a lot of people who are very similar. And it's interesting. It's interesting to say the least. And then there's a whole bunch of new kids coming up, and these new kids. I mean, for lack of a better word, I can find 4 or 5 of them, and they're bringing a fight, and I think they're pushing art. I really do, and I think
it's amazing, and it's like, why spend tens of thousands of dollars on this one creator when I've got this this young, hungry artist who's amazing, and it's not costing me that much. I mean, it's hard to argue with that.
Yeah, it's a very interesting business, and I think that's what a lot of creators have forgotten, that this is a business, and it's very much like a sports team producing comics, where you need to understand talent and you need to understand 14 other skills, as well as how to write or draw. And the best skill you can learn is how to talk.
Yes, absolutely.
That is the best skill in this business, because the person who can sell themselves the best is you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing I learned, like, because I mean, I knew, I knew that Sean and Jamie, Murphy, they have their email list that with Merck, they've got hundreds of people, several hundreds, if not 1,000 people to reach out to. That's fine. But me, it's like, I know as a writer, it's like, if we want to get more people, new people on board, it's going to be up to me to reach out to them to sell the book. And I have to be a good speaker. I have to be a good salesman on this. It is an art. You know, you have to be a salesman with this.
You have to be a good email writer.
Yes.
It sounds crazy. It sounds crazy.
No, it is 100% correct. You know, people don't understand tone when it comes to an email, or just punctuation, grammar, spelling. A lot of this is just stuff that people just either never learned, or they learned and forgot, or just don't care about.
Or my favorite thing, and this is just free interview advice for everybody. If you want to be on my show, or when I'm pitching to people, I look for things that people have done and I bring it up when I'm pitching to them. I say, hey, I really liked your fight. I just had Bella Madison on last night. I said, I really liked your fight against
I
Bella
hope I'm as exciting as her. It's hard to look away from the cameras when she was on. It's like, yes, okay, keep going. I'm sorry, what? You said what?
But all jokes aside, and then I'll take the compliment. I knew what to bring up, and I also knew what names to drop. And that's the thing that people have to understand. So when I get interviews, I know how to write an email that makes somebody stop and says, hey, I'm a really big fan of this role. And then I pick an obscure role when they're a voice actor. Like, wait a second, you know that role? And I'm like, yeah, I know that role. Because guess what? I do my homework on my guests before I reach out to them. And this is what I've been saying to people, is that if you want to be on my show, then you should pitch me. Somebody just said, hey, I got a book coming out in late February. And I'm like, great, what's your book? I should not have to ask you if you're pitching me. And that's a problem. And so it's like, the second I have to ask somebody something, or I don't make it crystal clear, it's like, okay, you just made my life harder. You didn't pitch me. You didn't get me excited. So if somebody wants to be on my show, say, I got this book, and it's like having a Jack and Coke while you're skydiving 15,000 feet down and you don't have a parachute. That's what my book is. Okay, that's a pitch. Now I'm curious. Tell me more. And I think that's a lost art, in which not even punctuation, but like not even clarifying information. But again, I digress. I'm not here to fix the world. You know, that's somebody else's job right now. But I'm here to make my life a lot simpler. But yeah, no, you got a lot going on, is my point.
Yes.
I really like your office too. No.
This is Sean's. I'm here in Sean's office. So I'm just hanging out here. I was like, I'm here. I might as well do it live from his office.
I knew it was Sean's office. That's why I brought it up. I knew that was Sean's office because I know what your house looks like, and you have very different art on your wall than Sean has on his. Yes.
Yeah.
But now that I'm in an enemy of Sean too, I do want to give you a chance to self-promote yourself before I get you and me both kicked out.
Okay. Sounds good. Yes. Born of Blood #3 special edition. Kickstarter special edition launches hopefully this Thursday, guys. This is effectively, I call it, in a way for me, it is my thank you to you, the fans who have supported Born of Blood from the first issue to now. The special edition is going to have a bunch of behind the scenes info stuff, maybe some art. It's going to have a big behind this, what my thought process was going into the book. We're going to have exciting new covers we couldn't do in Lunar because they're so hot. We may have some one name artists involved. We may have already name dropped involved with this. Can't say who, but you guys will not want to miss this. It's probably only going to be a 2-week campaign. Trust me, with issue 3, it only gets more exciting with the story. By the time you get to issue 6, you're going to be like, whoa, how did we get from here to here? You guys will love it.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. It'll be good. Obviously the sign up link for everybody is in the description above, down below. I think it'll convert over, if I'm not mistaken, once it goes live. I think it does. I could be wrong, but I know it's in the description in this thing. So go check that out. I'm going to be sharing this out to a lot of people as well. And obviously, I'm just going to keep saying it. If you like something, you need to support it, and you need to financially support it. And so whether it's a Kickstarter, a crowdfunder, an Indiegogo, if it's in your comic shop, if it's on somebody's store and they're producing something you like and you want to see more of it, you need to support it, because without money and without support, it just doesn't get made, or it doesn't get made to the specificity and the speed that you like. It goes a long way. And then furthermore, you need to follow people on social media. That's a given too, because following somebody on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, websites, email lists, that also goes a long way, because it keeps you in the loop. And so that's a big deal as well. And it's super important. And then as far as I'm concerned about me, yeah, I'm independent media. So I appreciate all sorts of support, whether you want to buy me a coffee, you want to send me money, you want to send me PDFs of books, you want to, follow me on social media. All that stuff means a lot. My social media is Pop Anime Comics on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Subscribing on YouTube is a big deal. Seriously, if you want to support me, the greatest thing you can do is subscribe to me on YouTube. It means a lot, and actually watch and comment on my interviews. And if you can, share them out or tell a friend, because it goes a long way. And it is arguably the greatest thing you can do for independent media, is actually tell people and share it out. That means so much more than anything else, to be quite honest. And I wish more people would do it, because it would actually make a huge difference. My goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and it's a long road. So that's all I have to say right there. And I do have a t-shirt. It is a Gundam t-shirt. It's on Redbubble. It's available in 16 colors. So if you are an anime fan, and I may or may not be working on a Barbie t-shirt for that movie coming out, and I have a very, very funny idea that I'm a little skeptical to doing. I have to make sure that it's parodied really well so I don't get sued. I do not want a litigation suit with Mattel anytime soon. Hasbro has dibs on that. But anyway, on that note, I'm going to give you the final word before I get you and me both canceled.
Reborn of Blood, guys.
Well, that is a wrap, everybody.